Oh, here goes, and welcome to the 159th episode of Throwback Hoops. Woody V is in the house. Please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, I'm joined by my main man, Robbie Clayton. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Woods? Nice to be back for another week. I see we've swapped the jersey theme this week. You're rocking the WNBL, I'm rocking an NBA one. But now a lot to talk about as always. And yeah, looking forward to kick it with you, mate.
Yeah, I like the look of that jersey you got on there, man. So why don't you tell us a little story about it?
All right, so this jersey here, Woods, I've got to say, out of all the jerseys I've got, it's one of my favourites. It's probably in my top 5. I like it so much I've never even wanted to take the tags off. So I literally just ripped the tags off about 5 minutes ago, and I've had it for 8 years maybe. So it's obviously when Adidas was still doing the NBA jerseys. So I'll stand up and show you the one I'm rocking today.
And for those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the Sacramento Kings Adidas Isaiah Thomas jersey. And I do remember you got that jersey, must have been like in his first or second year as a pro.
Yeah,
right?
I remember I bought 3 of the jerseys that came out that year. I bought a Josh Smith Hawks, a Brandon Jennings Bucks, and this one. So it's a long time ago, right? So
the very last pick in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful jersey, right? It's just amazing colours. I even showed my daughter before. She's like, wow, it looks so cool. It's
I
just
like
a really
black
nice...
And
it's great, the
purple.
2-colour combo, right?
Yeah,
and it's that nice, when they used to do the +2 size at the bottom. So it's got that real nice feel to it. It's only a large. That's the thing. These sizes have changed so much. Like a large in Nike would barely cover my belly these days. This is a large +2 in Adidas, and it's a perfect size. So a little bit about Isaiah Thomas. So yeah, it's this multicoloured Adidas Sacramento jersey, and it's the Hardwood Classics from 1996 and 1998. So we can remember some of those classic Kings themes in that time. So a little bit on IT. He played 12 seasons in the NBA after getting drafted out of Washington by the Kings. As you said, at the very last pick 60 in the 2011 NBA draft. So he played with a couple of teams, Woods. So I hope you're comfortable there. So he played with Sacramento, Phoenix, Boston, Cleveland, Lakers, Denver, Washington, New Orleans, Dallas, Hornets, and Phoenix. And he last played in the 2024 season with the Suns. Look, Isaiah Thomas really overcame the odds with his size and the injuries that he had there. Managed to achieve quite a lot. So he was an All-NBA, second team in 2017 with Boston. Was also a 2-time All-Star, which is pretty amazing from that last pick in the draft there. So, Woods, he's someone that I've always liked there. Love the way he played back in the day. When talking those Boogie Cousins teams that, he was on there. And then, it was just a weird journey, wasn't it? He went to, Phoenix where they had all the point guards there. And it was finally at Boston that he found that home there before that really bad injury that he had there, which was a real shame. So look, he still hasn't retired. He recently turned 36 years of age. Apparently he's still looking for a job as well, Wood. So I know the NBL's previously been mentioned for someone like IT there. Firstly, what were your memories on him, and how do you think he'd go out here?
Firstly, my memories of him are at Boston. Those 2-3 years. I mean, I do remember him at Sacramento, but those 2-3 stellar years he had, he was almost an MVP candidate or an All-NBA first-team candidate, right? He was playing out of this world, and none of us expected Boston to be competing because they were going through a period of transition. They lost the big 3. Right? Isaiah Thomas came into that team, and they were already making noise in the playoffs on the back of his performances. As you said, he made those all-star teams, and the injuries he had after that were just debilitating, and he never really came back from them. And as you said, he still reserves hope of playing 2024. He had a 10-day this year with Phoenix, didn't he?
So it was last season.
Yeah.
So yeah, the end of sort of last season. So I wonder if we'll see him. I think he's had a stint maybe in the G League. He's one of those hoopers though, isn't he, Wood? So he wants to play anywhere. He's one of those Seattle sort of guys. He's always playing in some sort of, rec league or some sort of, pickup game wherever he can. So I think if anyone called him, he'd jump to the opportunity. But what are your thoughts? NBL? Could we see him here maybe, or is it a bit too late for him?
Well, he was playing in the G League this year, right? So he's played recently, so he's match fit. The thing is, a 35-year-old, often injured veteran, undersized guard. I mean, look, if you're a Cairns or one of those small market teams, and you want to bring in a veteran, which is more than just his play, it's good for the ball club. It's good for some of the juniors and the young guys that are coming in to play those community clubs to learn from a guy like Isaiah Thomas. I could see it then. Yeah.
What if an extremely successful NBL franchise that maybe could be losing their franchise player? Do you think he could maybe be someone that could go to Perth? Not that I want to speak those words about Bryce, but
No,
you
I
want
I
someone a
don't
bit
think
younger.
so. I think they'd want to look at someone that can take them forward for the next 5, 6 years,
Yeah,
right?
true. Rather than a stopgap, sort of maybe
Yeah.
1 or 2 years at best. But no, either way, a nice little reminisce about Isaiah Thomas there, and just love this jersey. Glad to finally wear it because honestly, I've planned on wearing this one. Episode 159 today. I reckon in the first 10 or 20 episodes I plan, I'm like, no, I don't really want to take that tag off. I'll use it for another day. So the day has finally arrived. So yeah.
So why don't we change things up this week? Why don't you just do your card of the week now?
All right, no worries. Well, card of the week, I think I teased you earlier. It's a guy you like today. So, card of the week. So, it's a new card. It's a 23-24 Panini, and it's a signed rookie card. So, always like getting those signed rookie cards. We'll get a lot of signed cards when it's a signed and a rookie card. So, and it's someone we both like, but you like even more than me. So, Toumani Camara.
Toumani
Look how
Camara,
nice that
my
card is,
guy.
right? So it's a nice, so it's a Panini Prism card, so rookie card. So pretty rare sort of one there with the rookie card sign, but really nice looking card. It doesn't really have much on the back as these cards don't these days. But yeah, liking that card there. What are your quick thoughts on Mr. Camara? I know we've spoken about him a bit on the show.
All defensive. Eventually, he will be an all defensive player in the NBA. That's my thoughts on Toumani Camara.
Not a bad call. He's got someone like Matisse Thybulle to teach him some of those things at the moment now as well. So, yeah, it's been fun watching him. He had actually a pretty big game today. I was following that sort of closely there. So
Portland won today again, didn't they?
I think they did, yeah. So he's someone, look, if people don't, if the league pass doesn't extend to, watching Portland games, or if they're too much of a tight ass to pay for league pass, like, try and watch this guy because he's someone that, you'll enjoy watching. He's got a pretty unique game and good call about the, future all-defensive player. And, yeah, bit of a different one this week. Kamara signed rookie card.
Gotta say, that's one of my favorite cards that you've showcased on the show so far.
Nice looking sparkly card too, isn't it? Nice. All right, what do you got for your jersey?
Well, I got
nice WNBL.
I got a WNBL jersey that you actually got for me.
True. With the stand up rocking the Sydney Flames. Swain, number 6 jersey. It's a nice one, Woods. I know you finally came around and got some of those jerseys recently that we'd ordered and I was keeping at my place. That's a nice looking one.
It is. And look, I wanted to talk about Shaneice a little bit because she's in the news recently. She was born in Cairns, Queensland, and she's of Indigenous descent. She's an Aboriginal Australian. Prior to the WNBA draft, where she was drafted in 2023 with the 14th overall pick in the second round, she played at both the Cairns Dolphins and the Mackay Meteorites, is that how I say it? Of the NBL 1 North League in Australia. She also played for the University of Canberra Capitals from 21 to 22, and as you know, she also played for the Sydney Flames recently. After she was drafted in 2023, she was actually the only Australian to be drafted in 2023. But due to an injury, she was out for most of the season and obviously got some game time, as I mentioned there, with the Sydney Flames in the WNBL. And after not playing in the WNBA in 2024, she's recently signed with the Los Angeles Sparks on February 5th, 2025. And I'm really interested this year to get into the WNBA with you, Robbie, play some fantasy hoops and really follow the progress of some of these girls, especially the Australian girls, because there's quite a few of them that are flying their trade.
There's a lot, isn't there? Yeah, we mentioned last week the WNBA starting in May, and there'll be a lot of familiar names. There seems to be more and more, not just Aussies, but, imports that have played over here, they're going to go back over there as well. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting season to watch, and, yeah, looking forward to it.
I'll tell you what I like about Shaneice Swain as well. She's a bit of a combo guard, right? Likes to look for her own shot, but can create for others as well. A little bit of Patty Mills prototype there. I like the game that she brings to the table. So she's worth the price of admission.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, a couple of different ones this week. It's fun.
Awesome, man. So let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about. Let's kick things off.
We're starting with the Hawks losing to Brooklyn, or we got something else on that?
I saw that today, man. Well, how about we start with the Hawks? Well, last time we talked...
Different type of Hawks, right?
Different type of Hawk. Last time we talked, it was Game 1 was finished in the NBL Finals between Melbourne United and Illawarra Hawks. Melbourne won the game in Illawarra, right? Game 2, let's start with Game 2. Okay, Game 2, Illawarra won at JCA 102-100. Tyler Harvey came up big in the clutch with a massive 3. What a game, Robbie. I mean... Melbourne could be one Tyler Harvey shot away from winning the championship. But what did you see with that game? I mean, they really called on Trey Kell and Tyler Harvey to step up there.
No, for sure. Look, I think we spoke last week. I didn't love Game 1. Didn't think it was the most exciting game. But this, and a lot of people are saying that Perth and United game is one of the greatest playoff games ever. This has got to be like, maybe in the top 10. Maybe that's a little bit high. But I love this game. I thought this was a really exciting game to watch. Lots of different sort of storylines at the end. Really could have gone either way there. Melbourne United really had their chances. But yeah, look, Tyler Harvey, we know he's such a clutch player. And look, he's not always going to get game winners and big shots at the end, Woods, but he's just got the mentality that he wants to take that shot. And that's what you need from a big time clutch player there. And he certainly delivered in that game. There were some strange storylines, wasn't in that game, like Jack White for Melbourne just basically being non-existent in that game. But yeah, it was good to see, Kell and Harvey both fire back a little bit in that game after pretty quiet game ones. But yeah, really enjoyed that one, I've got to say.
Really, really good game. But the thing is, they relied on Sam Foley, Tyler Harvey, and Trey Kell, to really put up 65 to 70 points for their team. And they're going to need that, for the rest of the series if they're going to win. One of the storylines that come out of the game was a concussion that Shea Ili got in game 2 and was unable to play in game 3. As you mentioned, Jack White, not a single field goal attempt.
Very strange. And the Ili one was big, wasn't it, Woods? I know you're a big fan of Shea Ili, and for those that don't know, he does have a history of concussions there, and you just can't take chances with these sort of guys. You knew when he went down, and they were sort of saying maybe signs of that. It's like, well, he's not going to be back for a while. I'd be surprised if he's back again in this series. I could be completely wrong. We might see him in game 4, but really big loss for Melbourne. We've talked about that defensive backcourt that United have got with, Shea Ili and Delhi there. They're so important to the team, especially playing against an opponent with, all NBL first team guards there. So that was pretty big that he went down there. Look, they've got a decent enough bench, Melbourne, that they can try and cover a little bit, but you're never going to replace Ili's defense.
Oh. And just a word on that game, that foul that Tyler Harvey committed on Ian Clark to send him to the free throw line for 3 free throws to put him up at the end there.
Yeah.
He really felt that. So he would have gone to Coach Tatum and said, look, I want the ball. I need to make up for that foul. And he did. So that's for sure. Awesome.
Hey, didn't you know when IC went to the line that he was drilling bottom of the net in all 3 of those? He's talking about clutch players. IC and Clark is one of those guys. That was clutch hitting that Harvey was more clutch down the other end.
Yeah, well, let's turn our attention to game 3. All right. Game 3, another away victory. Melbourne United ended up winning that game 83 to 77. Now let me tell you something. The Hawks were ahead 71 to 61, right? With about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Robbie. And they were going for the knockout blow. You saw they had multiple open threes and they were just trying to force the issue a little bit. And before they knew it, Melbourne had gone on a 22 to 6 run. So they finished on 77 to 83. I think they've got only themselves to blame for being in a position of control and letting it slide, right?
Yeah, look, I didn't think it certainly wasn't as good as game 2. It sort of was almost a little bit similar to game 1, wasn't it? A little bit more low scoring, a bit of a more grinding affair there. But you're right, the Hawks really looked home. They were, up 7 at 3/4 time. They had everything going their way, playing at home. And then they just got really tired, I thought. Like you said, they were trying to go for that, nail in the coffin type 3-point shot to get that lead, beyond double figures, but it just didn't happen. And full credit to Matthew Dellavedova. He just came out in that last quarter. He was so important, wasn't he? He was driving to the hoop. He was being a bit more aggressive on offense. I think they kind of needed his offense in that game there. But yeah, it was really impressive. I think obviously Kell getting injured for the Hawks made a bit of a difference as well. We're not quite sure what the deal with that was. He saw him go, I don't know if they said what it was, but he sort of slipped over and went knee first. I didn't know if it was like some sort of hyperextension as well as banging his knee on the court there. But yeah, pretty surprising that Illawarra have lost both home games in this final series there, and you could hear the crowd really tensing up, couldn't you, in that last quarter there? Or they were gasped and these sort of things. The place was rocking when they got that 10-point lead, but. Yeah, and look, I think Melbourne set the tone there. Woods, Jack White came out and hit the first shot of the game, hit that 3-point. I thought he was crucial to the win, and I actually think him and Marcus Lee, the bigs really outplayed Illawarra. Illawarra need more from Samson Froling, Woods. 8 points. He had 2 rebounds in that game. That's really low for him. He needs to be playing better than that. But yeah, and another big storyline as well, I thought, was Illawarra's bench in this game. So they were 34 to 9. So you think that would be a winning stat there. But the thing is, no one really got going for them, did they? Like we saw, I think Hickey was their leading scorer with 12 points. Days had 11. No one else really managed to get going. So as much as they had the bench points there, it was probably a more even spread from the big, Melbourne players there. But where do we go from here? How are you picking your winner in game 4, right?
Well, as you mentioned, firstly, Jack White, right? 8 from 9, 88% from the field. 20 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals and a block shot, right? And he said in the interview afterwards, I needed to get out of my head. So, all the guys got behind me and said, don't worry about it. Attack the rim. Don't worry about your free throws. And you talked about Vickerman making a target of him early. He was setting him up early in the offense in the first quarter to get him looks, to get him some confidence. You talk about a guy like Delhi, 16 points, 11 assists, 0 turnovers, bro.
Huge.
0 turnovers, right?
Huge.
And where do we go from here? Well, it's tough. The reason that Vickerman recruits these veterans is because they've been there before. Guys like Delhi, Ian Clark, CG43, right?
Yeah.
These guys are tried and tested veterans. And I'll tell you what this reminds me of a little bit, Robbie. It reminds me a little bit of the shot. You remember when Ray Allen took the shot and San Antonio lost, right? They basically, they were ready to set up the presentation for San Antonio to win the championship. And before you know it, Miami win game 6 and 7. And then what did San Antonio say? We want to wait. We cannot wait till next year. Already we were starting to think about next year and our chance at the finals again. This is similar. You talk about Melbourne United and what they went through with Jack McVeigh. Their hearts were taken from them with some big shots in that series last year. So a lot of these guys are coming back. Ian Clark, Matthew Dellavedova, we mentioned, right? CG43. They would have had it in their head, right? And these veterans who've been there before have basically said, look, we're not going to let us lose again. We're not losing these 2 finals in a row. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Illawarra to go into JCA on Wednesday night in front of a 10,000 plus strong crowd and get a victory on Melbourne's home floor.
And also the thing I'm thinking was there's the Dean Vickerman factor as well in a game like this. He's been there and done that. We saw him again doing that Marcus Lee matchup on Dave Hickey at the end of the game there. He was basically under the ring there. So basically it's like shoot at Dave Hickey. Dave Hickey, he's a great player. He needs to work on his outside shot this offseason because it's really lacking. It's the one thing that lets him down there. And I thought that was, again, a good coaching move. They went to a shorter rotation. I thought they've had some good minutes from Tanner Krebs there. He's had some moments in this series. Saw Kyle Bowen coming on and blocking 3-point attempts and that. So I wonder if it might not be a player. It might be a coach in this game 4 that makes a difference. From selfish reasons, I'd love it to go to game 5 and I'd love, this, home team losing trend to continue. I don't know. I just thought maybe the way Melbourne finished that, maybe they are that professional and that experienced veteran team that they go and take care of business in game 4.
I think so. That's what makes a difference, right? A lot of these guys haven't been there before. And if Illawarra do end up losing, I have no doubt they're going to come back strong as next year and better for it, right?
Well, they'll be hungrier, won't they? When you sort of get so close to that success, like you said with Melbourne last year, it hurts a little bit more, doesn't it? You want to do that bit more work in the off-season. You're not complacent there. You want to come back a stronger team. So, yeah, I think that could be the case.
Spare a thought for someone like Delhi who won that NBA championship all those years ago with Cleveland. He wants this more than anyone on the floor. You can see that. He saw Chris Golding go up to him at the end of the game, just go, yeah, man.
Hey, we haven't had a crazy CG43 game in this series as well, have you? Like, he's still been solid, but what's to say he couldn't come out and hit 6 or 7 threes in the first half on Wednesday night's game as well.
In front of family and friends. The rims look a bit bigger as well. So
didn't love the game time yesterday. I know there was a lot of sport going on. AFL's back. The Formula One was on around that time, but it was just a weird sort of time waiting all weekend for that 5:30 tip-off. So I know if it does go to game 5, I think it's that more traditional early 2:30 maybe start time in Illawarra. But let's hope it does go to game 5. And yeah, it's been a very interesting series so far.
Wednesday night, tune in, guys. All right, man. I want to talk about some NBA. I want to talk about the Western Conference today specifically.
So no Hawks. Oh, disappointing. Oh, fair.
I mean, we can quickly talk about the Hawks.
We don't deserve to talk about them after losing to Brooklyn. That was rubbish, wasn't it? Anyway.
Look at the guys Brooklyn were playing today.
I know. Couldn't know half them worse. Tyrese Martin was like their best player, and he was a Hawks player a few years ago. He was like sticking it to them every opportunity.
All right, so let's move from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 54-12 last I checked. Maybe, they're 56-12. They're 56-12. Well. Yeah. They're 56-12 now, and they're the best team in the Western Conference. Who comes after the Thunder as the second seed? That's anyone's guess, Robbie. So there's a large logjam for the number 2 spot in the West. The Denver Nuggets, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Houston Rockets are all 43-25, right? Then you got the Los Angeles Lakers, 41-25, and the Golden State Warriors, 39-28. Timberwolves 40-29. So you've got those 3 basically vying for.
You've added on some of those wins because Minnesota won today.
Yeah. I've added them all up. Added them all up. They're accurate as of now, right? So basically those 3 are fighting to stay out of the play-in, right? So whoever gets the 6th seed there will stay out of the play-in. So I want to just give you a few points on all of these teams that I just mentioned and get your comments back on what I've said, right? So let me start with Denver, all right? I think Aaron Gordon, who's been limited to just 39 games, including 30 starts this season, that's been something that's cost the Nuggets. They have got increased production from the likes of Christian Brown and Russell Westbrook and Peyton Watson, but I think Gordon's ability to stay healthy on the floor could make a difference between home court advantage in the playoffs, right? Because I mean, it's conceivable they could fall out of the number four spot as well with that logjam, right?
A lot of these teams we're going to talk about today, Woods, in the West, are on really good form. They're on big win streaks. I think 3 of them have won more than 5. Denver's probably the exception to the rule there. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. A few unexpected losses as well, including Sunday hosting Washington and losing to a 35-foot shot from Jordan Poole on the buzzer there. So, the thing that worries me a little bit about Denver is I'm not sure how much I trust their bench. You mentioned guys like Peyton Watson there. Look, their bench was evident in that shock loss to to Washington. They scored 8 points, the bench there, and literally that was from 2 people. So we know these lineups and the benches are tightened a little bit in the playoffs. So, but I still think you need a solid 9 players or so. I'm not quite sure whether Denver's got a 9. You know what I mean? Obviously, having Aaron Gordon back makes a big difference if they can get him healthy and out on the floor there. I just wonder who else can maybe step up there. It's I don't know, the depth's going to be in question there. We know the Joker's going to do what the Joker does. Guys like you say, Christian Brown's been very reliable. Westbrook's having a pretty understated season there, but I don't know, unless they can get Gordon healthy or maybe find another contributor from the bench, I wouldn't be surprised if they're an early exit in this playoffs there, and whether that means first round or whether they just sneak through to the second round and lose them. But yeah, got a few concerns about this team.
And look, since their success with Bruce Brown, Uncle Jeff coming off the bench in their championship run, one of the big question marks around Denver is they've never actually been able to replace those guys. And there's the food for thought that Joker's just the greatest player in the world. He can do everything, but he does need supporting acts around him, right? So
what Joker's doing is pretty amazing, isn't it? He just continues putting up monster lines. I was actually thinking, I don't know, I couldn't sleep the other day, so of course you just start thinking about random NBA stuff when you're NBA hardcore fans like we are. I was thinking, how we compare Joker's career to Shaq when it's all done? Like Shaq was one of the most dominant centers we've seen just from his sheer size and power and strength there. Joker's kind of doing it the other way there, but he is an absolute dominating center there. I think he may go down. Obviously, he's got the championship. He's got the multiple MVPs there. He could go down to be, a better career than Shaq, which who would have thought that when he started, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, someone like Arvydas Sabonis, who came into the league very late, is the kind of prototype that Nikola Jokic is, right? And potentially if Sabonis got 10, 15 years, we could be comparing the two of them right now. But different type of players, man. Completely different players. So I don't think we've ever seen a player like the Joker.
No.
Right?
No, he's ahead of his time, and he's just fun to watch, isn't he?
Yep. Okay, so now let's turn our attention to Minnesota. They've now won, 8 straight, or is it?
8 games in a row, 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, and that's coincided with your boy Julius Randle return from a 13-game absence due to a groin injury. Now, let me read some stats to you. In that time, Robbie, he's averaged 19.3 points on 51% shooting, 7.4 rebounds, and 6.3 assists over 31.3 minutes per game, with a plus 40-point differential over that plan. I think this is some of the best basketball I've ever seen Julius play, Robbie. And the knock on him from me in the past has always been, does he make teams he's on better? And obviously in this last little stretch, we can see the evidence is there to state that he has.
He's been huge, hasn't he, coming back? I mean, obviously they're the form team, 8 in a row. Cleveland lost today. So I think they're probably the owners of the biggest streak, unless there's someone I've forgotten now. But yeah, it has coincided with Randall being back. My boy's playing some great basketball. I think he really coexists well with Ant Edwards there. We've seen Ant Edwards have some really big games. He's a little bit up and down earlier in the year, seems a bit more consistent now. But I love it when Randall's getting these, box score filling numbers there. Like, he's a great passer. That's always been a part of his game that probably hasn't got enough credit. Had a triple-double last week. Very willing passer, which I think is a good thing from him. He can run the offense through him, that big sort of point forward type position there. So I like what they're doing here. I mean, they're definitely a team I watch a lot of, Woods. I love me some Naz Reid. I love Julius Randle there, but yeah, they're impressive. I think McDaniels has been really handy.
He's been ridiculous,
man. I didn't realise his scoring he's really scoring the ball more than he's ever done in the past.
14 rebounds today, 20 and 14. Playing the 2 or the 3.
He's living up to that big contract that he got a couple of years ago, and he's shining. But they're a danger team. They're one of those teams. I sort of feel like I've got some concerns with Denver there, the lack of depth, just the current form they're in. Minnesota's a team you would not want to be playing in that first round of the playoffs, and it's going to be a good matchup. We know the West is so tight. That's why we're talking about it today. But whoever gets them in the first round has got a hell of a battle there.
Right, and DiVincenzo and Rudy Gobert have been nursing injuries as well, and they've come back to full fitness, and the team is firing on all cylinders. Everyone knows their roles. and they're adapting well finally to the loss of Karl Anthony Towns, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, so the Lakers were riding a high on an 8-game winning streak until Saturday when they lost to the Celtics, during which LeBron suffered a groin strain. The Lakers saw their losing streak extend to 4 games. Now, with LeBron out for a little while, they're going to rely on Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect to step up. Can they ride this ship and still potentially maybe even get a home court advantage in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, isn't it? You wanted to get those reps with someone like LeBron playing alongside Luka. We mentioned when that trade happened, maybe, I guess not similar players. It's probably, but they're high usage players that do need a lot of the ball, and I think they were learning to coexist together. That's going to obviously take a downturn now. We know with these older guys, Woods, they suffer injuries like a groin strain there. They said 1 to 2 weeks. What's to say he might not be out till the start of the playoffs there? There's only about 15 games left in the actual regular season there. So, look, if they're talking and relying on the 2 guys you said there, I think they're in pretty good hands. AR-15, Austin Reeves, he's quickly becoming a favourite of mine. Love the way that guy goes about it. He's fearless, isn't he? He'll take the big shot. He'll dive on the floor. Takes pride in his defense. So he's been an absolute revelation for the Lakers there, and they got him on a pretty good deal, didn't they, when they signed him? Dalton Connect, I wonder if this will be like a bit of a trivia question in a few years if he ends up being like an all-star or something, and people will say, "Oh, do you remember that time when the Lakers traded him for Mark Williams and change basically, and then rescinded on the deal there?" But he's looked huge, isn't he? He's put a couple of, he's sneaky athletic as well. Woods, you see, he gets up there and throws them down. He actually fell down in that Denver game, which looked pretty bad, but he managed to come back on the court after that. But yeah, they're going to need a lot from these guys, aren't they? I don't think they want to rush LeBron back. You can't do that with someone at his age there. And they've broken that streak. I think they did win yesterday, so they're back on the win column there. But yeah, they're a team that maybe slides a little bit down the standings, but again, they're going to be a tough first round matchup with some of the talent they've got.
Well, I'm reading LeBron should be back by this weekend's road trip, so I think he might be. He's so durable, even when he does get injured.
Yeah.
And look, they've been, relying on some other guys like Jordan Goodwin and Gabe Vincent. Jared Vanderbilt has come back from an injury, so these guys.
Vanderbilt's an angry guy, isn't he? What's the time I see him out there, he's getting in a run-in with someone. It's quite funny to watch, actually.
I think he's one
What
of
are
those
your
guys.
thoughts on Austin Reeves? He's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's awesome. And look, the faith that the Lakers front office, LeBron James, put in him from day one is a big part as to why he has maturated so quickly and become the player he is today. He's got the backing and the support of people around him. He's learning from veterans around him like AD, LeBron. Surely it's the best school to learn and take your game to the next level, right?
For sure.
Yep. All right. All right. Houston won its 5th straight game on Friday with a dominant victory over the Dallas Mavericks. Tari Eason's strong players earned him a permanent spot in the starting 5, and Fred VanVleet's return should help with running the offense. Well, they've actually won 2 games since then, and they're now sitting as 2nd in the Western Conference, man, just behind OKC. But yes.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it, to look at the standings and see Houston there, Woods. I mean, they've already improved, I think, 2 or 3 wins on last season's win total. They were a team I think we picked to improve this season, didn't we? Well, we knew they had some young talent, a bit of a veteran coach there and stuff. But, yeah, pretty impressive team. Not quite sure if this is the season for them, maybe that one season away there, but certainly having a guy like Fred VanVleet back, look, it gives them that veteran presence, doesn't it? And they need that on a team with a lot of young guys. You've got Jalen Green, you've got your boy Jabari Smith on there, someone who you're not a fan of, in case anyone's wondering. You've got Thompson on there, so I think VanVleet's someone that just gives them that veteran presence. We know he's a big game player; he can hit big time shots there. Tari Eason's a funny one.
Talk to me about him. Look, I like
he's
his
been really
game.
good. I worry about his health as well. He always seems to be sort of one play away from another injury. I think he does go very hard, but he can offer a lot. He's a strong defender. He can stretch the floor, really strongly built sort of guy. So they've got a lot of depth on that team, don't they? If they can kind of keep Tari Eason, healthy, you've got someone like
Armin Thompson.
Armin Thompson, who's basically, setting, records for guys at his height in blocking shots and rebounding and stuff. He's really come along well there. So, and I do think they're coached well. I think that's the thing I mentioned, the veteran coach there in Udoka. So, yeah, they're a team. Look, maybe they're one of those teams that they'll be happy to make it this year. I know if you ask them, they wouldn't say that, but I think they would make it, maybe have a decent first round exit there, because we're talking a lot of teams Woods in that first round. Only 4 of them are going to get through to round 2, right? So, it's going to be a tough ask for Houston, depending on who they come up against. If they come up against a Minnesota or a Lakers or one of these sort of teams, the Clippers maybe or something, teams with a lot more veterans that have kind of been there, done that a bit more, it might be hard for them. But yeah, they are a fun team to watch. It's great with a few Aussies and a big Kiwi on the team as well.
So with that, let's just touch on that quickly. So we got one Aussie, Jock Landale. We got
Yeah.
Jayshawn Tate, who's a adopted
Two
Australian.
Aussies. Let's not forget Jack McVeigh. But I'm not sure he'll be playing in the playoffs.
Jack McVeigh on a 2-way contract. So we've actually got a connection with four people
Yeah.
there with the Anzacs, right? So
Yeah.
will those guys have a bit of a role to play? I think Steven Adams is starting to play a bit more of a prominent role coming off the bench.
Yeah, look, Adams is one of those ones that he's got a bit of an injury history himself there. So I think Landale's someone that if he gets caught on, that opportunity is there for him, he will deliver. Again, like I said, with the bench for Denver there, we know benches are going to shorten there. So maybe we see that rotation for the Rockets shorten a little bit as we get towards the playoffs. Jalen Green's the big sort of, what if X factor type guy for me. Like on his game, he can put up, 30 or 40 points, but then he'll also have a stinking game the next time sort of thing. So I think they need a bit of consistency out of someone like him. But they're a fun team to watch. They're definitely a league pass team that I like putting on there. And
Me too.
Yeah, interesting to see how they can sort of end the season and head towards the playoffs. But second in the West, like with 15 games left, that's a massive achievement.
Yeah, it is a massive achievement. I want to ask you something before I ask you the next question. I know Jimmy Butler's not a huge fan. You're not a huge fan of Jimmy Butler, right?
No.
But now when we look at this Miami Heat team and how terrible they are, right, without Jimmy Butler, and then you see Jimmy Butler go to the Golden State Warriors and how good they're playing with him on their team, he is conducive to winning. We've seen that in the past. He might be, indifferent in the locker room, but as a player, his contributions on the floor are so instrumental in bringing success for every organization he's with. Well, at least with Miami, right? And we've seen with Golden State. The reason I say this is with Golden State is 14-2 since Jimmy Butler made his team debut on February 8th, and the Warriors are 10 or 11 games over 500 for the first time this season. Acquiring Butler has revitalized Steph Curry and the Warriors. And incorporating Jonathan Kuminga back into the rotation is crucial for them in climbing the standings because he wouldn't have played alongside Jimmy Butler. So first, it's a two-part question. First, I want to ask you about Jimmy Butler and the impact that he has had on the Golden State Warriors and what we've seen with Miami. And then how are they going to, incorporate Jonathan Kuminga into the rotation, right?
Yeah, I think looking back at that trade now, Woods, this is probably the perfect landing spot for someone like Jimmy Butler. Going to a veteran team that's won it all before. Butler's won nothing. You're going to a team that's won it before, and they've got guys that could, put him in line if they need to. They've got veteran presence there, and I think he's going to go in and respect guys like Steve Kerr, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, those sort of guys on the team there. So, just on fire at the moment. 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're that other team I mentioned along with Minnesota. I'm not sure if they'll play soon, but that would be a cracker of a game. You can tell as well with Golden State Woods, they've got that real swagger at the moment. They all trust each other. Steph Curry's in some really good form at the moment. He's looking pretty healthy and everything else like that. And they're not scared of anyone, right? They would be confident going up against any team in the NBA, whether it's any of the big dogs in the East or any of these teams we're talking about now, including OKC, I think, as well in the West. So, look, I think it's done well. Look, I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing for Jimmy Butler, but certainly in terms of this year now, he could definitely make a big run there. You mentioned obviously Kuminga. That's a good call as well. There, he was playing really well before his injury. And
yeah, he was.
Good to have him back. Even some unheralded guys like Gary Payton.
He's playing great.
He's playing really good. He's hitting his 3-point shot
Post.
a lot now. He's really worked on that. Yeah, so that's something we talked
Quinton
about Davo
Post,
Hickey in the NBL section.
What's
Right?
the starting center? Quinton Post.
Post, yeah.
Post.
Yep.
Where did he come from?
He's a Dutch guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
So got him from nowhere. The guys are delivering. Buddy Hield's kind of that veteran presence that'll have a good game. You don't need to rely on him every game there. But yeah, Payton was a big one for me because he wasn't someone that had a great outside shot. I think they wanted him to be that 3-and-D type player, but he's turned into a really reliable shooter. I know Wiggins was a big part of that locker room there, and he'd been there and had the championship success there, but doesn't feel like they've missed him a whole lot, does it? But yeah, they're looking really good. Like I said, swagger and just that look on their face that they feel like they can beat anyone there. So I think they're a pretty scary opponent whoever gets these guys.
I mean, you mentioned it. Steph Curry was disinterested. The team was going into a black hole. Looking back, on this trade. If the Warriors are firstly, do you think the Warriors can make some noise and potentially fight for a championship this year?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Yeah, right. Like, I mean, I don't, like I said, maybe Houston feels like they're a year away. Denver, their depth troubles me a little bit. The Clippers, you don't know what you're going to get from them. Lakers have got that older sort of team that might be an injury away. So why not, right? Why can't it be? Maybe OKC, Minnesota, Golden State, maybe one team to be determined and make that, the last four in the West there. So I think they could definitely be a really strong contender.
Well, the sport blokes asked me when I was a guest on their podcast recently, are the Warriors a chance of winning the championship? I said, I don't think so, but you can't write them off with these guys. Like, similar answer to what you had, but let's just say, for argument's sake, they make a finals run here, and you look back on the trade at the deadline to bring Butler in. It's got to count as one of the best trades in history if it does eventuate for success, right?
Absolutely. And I love what Steve Kerr does as well, Woods. You can sort of, bring in any of these sort of players, and he seems to get these relationships with him. He's kind of that new school coach, isn't he? You have really good relationships with his players, and they want to play for him, right? He's someone that was a role player himself when he played on some great teams, and he knows the game so well. We've seen, obviously, he's had the international success now, but yeah, he's someone that I think is probably connected with Jimmy Butler and really helping to get the best out of him there.
Totally agree with you. You just mentioned offline that you finished watching Court of Gold. One thing that we saw is Steve Kerr, he creates a great environment and atmosphere for people to
really seems like a good guy
to succeed in, and that comes from all his learnings from his father, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good point, and Jimmy Butler's fitted in really nicely there with Steve Kerr and everyone else in Golden State. All right. Any final thoughts? Western Conference?
No, I mean, like I said, I'll have to look up and see when Golden State are playing Minnesota, but all these games are vital now. We didn't talk about the Clippers today. They're a team that Kawhi's playing at the moment, right? I saw them firsthand, watching that game against the Hawks on Saturday. The Hawks came in on a bit of a winning streak, and the Clippers just blew the Hawks out in the third quarter in that game. That was without Norm Powell playing in that game, but Zubats just seems to get bigger and better every season. He's just an absolute beast down low. But if you can get Kawhi playing healthy, with some of those sort of guys there, Bogey looks rejuvenated playing in that Clippers jersey. So they're another team I think that, they could definitely get there towards, that last four, or even the Western Conference Finals if things go their way. So yeah, enjoying some of the veteran teams that are sort of firing at this time of year.
And let's just touch on the Hawks. We've got a few minutes left, right? So 32 and 36. We did have a good run for a while. Obviously, losing today to Brooklyn was tough, but that shouldn't count against the good work that's been done of late, yeah?
I mean, I think they've got, the third best schedule going forward for the rest of the season there. But that doesn't count for nothing when the third best schedule means we're playing teams like Brooklyn and we go in and we just get outplayed by them in Barclays there. So disappointing loss. They're the ones that you've got to try and win to, keep that.
Absolutely.
I don't think we're going to miss out on the play-in. It'll mean like a team like Philadelphia who've got no interest in winning or go on a run there. But yeah, I think some of their newer guys have come back to earth a bit. George Niang has really slowed down. He was on fire when he started. He's looked really cold lately. I'm starting to wonder a little bit why Garrison Matthews isn't getting minutes there. I think if you're talking a shooter, he's a way better shooter than George Niang. Garrison Matthews, he seems to be buried in that rotation there. But yeah, I think they're doing okay. Capella seems to keep missing all these games for personal reasons. I'm not quite sure what's going on with him there. But yeah, look, there were some signs there. They had that decent, home stretch there where they won, I think, 4 or 5 out of the 6 games there. They have a few more road games coming up, but there's some signs there anyway. I don't think they're really going to, cause too much of an issue in the East. But you never know, right? We knew it was always going to be tough with Jalen Johnson's season-ending injury there, but they're doing okay.
Yeah, and we're still going to put all our support behind Dyson Daniels to potentially win Defensive Player of the Year, right?
He so deserves it. I don't know why this award seems to have to go to a big man there. When, you're just looking at him, he's so dominant. He's just funny. You sort of dribble and half, take your eye off the ball there. He'll steal the ball and run down and score at the other end. But yeah, he's having just an amazing season. It was his birthday today, so happy birthday to Dyson there. Yeah, he just seems to have really found a home in the ATL there. And, I think people have already forgotten about DeJounte Murray, right? We've got a player on a much better contract there, and it's just worked out really well, that trade, I think,
for us. Better fit as well, right?
100%, yeah.
Awesome. Well, some promising signs from the Hawks. As you said, they've got a good schedule coming up. So these last 15 to 20 games, if we can have a little bit of a run, will put us in a good position for the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, man. Shall we do some true or false?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Have you had a chance to look at them?
I have, of course.
All right. Because I didn't last week, remember?
That's because you don't prepare. But no, that's
all right. Angus Brand or Brock Motum will be back in the NBL.
Yeah, I just want a little bit of thought. I'm actually going to say true. I actually think we might see both of these guys back next season. I think maybe it's the time for both these guys to come home. We've heard about the modem, potentially coming home, whether that means him going to, play with the 36ers. That's a funny team to go to at the moment. But I'd like to see him come back. I think there's a lot of people in Australia that probably don't really know Brock Modem there and know how good a player he's been throughout his career there. So I'd like to see that happen. Angus Brown, I'd love to see him come back and play with the Wildcats there. He was looking really good before he went over. I wonder if the Nick Kay rumours will come out as well, because he's always rumoured to maybe be coming back from Japan to play here. But I'm going to say true for both those guys returning next season. I think there's no better time than now for it to happen.
Yeah, I'd love to see Brock Modem in the league. He has that prototype. He can stretch the floor. He fits into an NBL team right away. Angus Brown, I had to look at his Wikipedia page. He's 35 now. Yeah. I remember him as a rookie at the 100%. Kings. I cannot believe that 15 years has just passed and Angus Brown is 35 now, right?
Hey, Woods, I'm going to do something cheeky. Before you ask your next one, I'm going to ask you a true or false question.
Okay.
So, Sydney Kings hiring Andrew Bogut as assistant coach is a good move for the club. True or false?
I'm going to say false. I mean, we've seen in the past when you get someone in an ownership position get behind the bench, it never ends in success because you've got multiple hats you're wearing. You're a coach on the floor, but you're also in the front office making decisions regarding payroll, etc.
Were you surprised about the move? Was it something you sort of had any idea that it was happening, or did it come as a bit of a shock to you?
Came as a bit of a shock to me. But the one thing I will say, the positive side to look at it is, he doesn't take any bullshit, Andrew Bogut, right? And if he sees anything happening, he's going to go in gorgeous here. It's not going to be Billy Tomlinson. It's going to be Andrew Bogut.
Right, he does call things how he sees it, isn't he, Bogut? That's one thing he's certainly well known for. So, I thought it was an interesting one. Obviously, they lost Kickett there, so maybe they wanted to get a bigger sort of, assistant coach that can work with some of their young bigs there. But, it's an interesting one.
Tell you the other thing. What did we miss last year? What were the Sydney Kings glaringly missing last year? A big man, right?
Yeah, well, true. So you're saying Bogut's going to play? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying bring in someone that he can, take under his wing, and we really need a proper big man. We can't play with our centers at 6'8", this year.
And you're expecting probably like I am a big turnover in that team in the offseason as well. So maybe they've got something in mind. Maybe they'll Trill and Ryan really go out and get a young, big Aussie centre that, Bogut can help mould to be a great player there.
Yep.
So sorry for interrupting your little segment. I just thought I'd throw that one over.
So I'll say false for now, but I'll reserve judgment, okay?
Okay, sure.
All right. Let's move on. Okay. LeBron James was within his rights to call out Stephen A. Smith about comments he made about Bronny.
Yeah, it's got a bit of attention, didn't it? Look, I'm going to say true as a father, but maybe false as a basketballer. So I know that's kind of giving myself two answers there. Look, this is a pretty unique situation, isn't it, Woodsman? Let's face it, without...
Robbie, do you want to actually tell the story to the audience as to what happened?
Yeah, so look, Stephen A. Smith, we know what these shows are like. You've always got to try and focus on the negative stuff. And he's had a lot to say about Bronny James this season, and maybe that the Lakers shouldn't have drafted him and it was nepotism and, LeBron and all these sort of things. So LeBron actually approached him before a recent game and got pretty in his face. I think it really took Stephen A. Smith by surprise. I actually liked his rebuttal to that, Stephen A. Smith. He came out and spoke about it, and, he's got a job to do, obviously, in the media, and he was sort of calling it. I think LeBron thought the comments were maybe getting a little bit personal there. So that's kind of the background around it there. I think, honestly, Woods, LeBron's status with the Lakers, had he have not been the guy that he is, let's face it, they wouldn't have drafted Bronny James. And I think we could also say that there hasn't been many signs whatsoever that Bronny James is even going to be a rotational player on this team. He's just undersized and doesn't really do anything spectacular. He's not an amazing defender. He's not an amazing outside shooter. So it's 6'1" or whatever he is there. It's just not the sort of player I can see work. So Stephen A. Smith's platform is meant to be controversial, right? And he's highly paid for doing what he does. They pay him to get views and clicks. And I think he really achieved it here.
Of course he did.
He really did, didn't he? At the end of the day, you probably have to agree with his views on Bronny, right?
Yeah, I do, in the sense that, look, if LeBron is using his influence and his power to get Bronny to play there, he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his career, with that monkey on his back. And I've talked about other, sons of great sports people who've also, suffered a similar fate. So I think what Stephen A. Smith was saying was not about LeBron as a person, kind of like it's not setting Bronny up for success by giving him a leg up like this rather than letting him do it himself,
It would have been better for him just to have gone to another team, right, and just be far away from his, his father's shadow, and maybe people would eventually forgotten. No, he's got the last name James. Oh, okay, maybe just. But it's always going to be the case now. And you just wonder how that will end up going right. I know they gave him the contract there, and LeBron obviously had a lot to do with that. But yeah, it's not a great situation. So yeah, I think I'll go back to what I said. I'll say true. In terms of, was LeBron right in terms of being a father, but probably false as a basketballer, because he's got to maybe take a step back and maybe think, oh, is any of this stuff that Stephen A. Smith's saying is true? And look, a lot of it probably was.
Yep, no, good answer. I like it. Now, you were just talking about Clint Capella and his random games being missed because of personal reasons, whatever. He's been in and out of the lineup this year. Now, I looked up an interesting stat recently. Mo Gay is averaging a 1-1 over his last 10 games. That's 1 block, 1 steal, and 1 3-pointer made. Okay, this is a unique skill set, and I've been really impressed with what he's been doing lately. And I think the Atlanta Hawks should invest in his development going forward.
Definitely true for me. I'm a big fan of Mo. Look, we've seen him getting that opportunity with guys like Jalen Johnson out. He's actually been starting. They sort of start that guy at the 4, and then, sometimes it's Dominic Barlow, sometimes it's Mo Gay there. But he definitely has shown something, right? I know they were really high on this guy. So this is a guy that was undrafted there, Wood. So a really good pick by the Hawks to get someone like this. He had a really good first summer league where he was blocking 2.5 shots a game. Very interesting as well. This guy is actually a born and bred American as well, Wood. So he was born on Staten Island. He's got Senegalese parents. And yeah, real strong skill set at both ends of the court. So he isn't that young. He's 26 years of age, but I do think he has a pretty bright future there. And, I've enjoyed what we've seen from him this year.
I had an interview with him the other day, and he spoke with a strong American accent. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Look, I think, as you said, he starts at the 4, but he can slide over to the 5 if you need him to. He's very versatile. And if we're going to invest in Okongwu as a starter, I think Mo Gay is someone that can be a part of that rotation going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it.
All right, and finally, I've got a bit of a I don't know if it's a controversial question, but I'm saying this: we are seeing tanking at its fullest at the moment. Toronto Raptors, Utah Jazz, perfect examples of this, right, Robbie?
Yeah.
The NBA should change the rules around the lottery to avoid this in the future. So maybe the bottom 8 teams all get equal amount of probability to get the first pick to avoid this towards the end of the season.
I feel like I'm going pretty heavy on the trues this week. It's been pretty bad lately.
Really bad.
I'll sort of say that with this caveat there. So I feel like I am really hating the tanking this year. So I would say true, but then I also don't really have a counter on how you can stop this. Whether it's the suggestion you made there, I don't know what we can do to stop it there. But honestly, what some teams, and I'm going to pick 2 teams that have really stood out to me that are probably the biggest culprits of this tanking was Utah and Toronto.
So I just said earlier.
It's ridiculous, right? So there's other teams as well. Look, there's other teams that are probably getting away with it. Philadelphia, I wonder if they're going to sort of really put the tank in there. But Utah in particular, they actually got in trouble, didn't they, recently?
$100,000 fine for sitting out Larry Markin.
And then he went from being questionable to being available the next game. We've seen George missing games, so they're clearly not trying. Toronto is a funny one. They're tanking guys, but they've also got some guys on this team that can win. They've got some. We spoke offline on the weekend. Some just no-name guys on this team that are coming in, and what is it?
Orlando Robinson.
That's it. Orlando Robinson, and then there's Lawson, there's Ford guy.
AJ Lawson, there's some other random dudes, man.
These guys just want to come in and win as well, right? So, yeah, it is a bit frustrating. I think we're going to see it more in these next 15 games. We're going to see some of these random, look at guys, we're talking about Toronto, who's obviously with the Pelicans before, but, Brandon Ingram he sprained his ankle in December and he hasn't played since. Sprained. What the hell is that? Seriously, that is ridiculous.
And RJ Barrett's got illness, personal reasons. It's a different reason
there's
every
all those
game.
Things, right? They tick the box off in that. So, I feel like it's a little bit embarrassing what some of these teams are doing. And honestly, it's a bit of a blight on these teams and they're, showing disrespect to their fan base. So, teams like, like we said, Toronto, Utah, some of these other teams, they need to pull their head in. But, unless the league does change some sort of rule there, I guess they're entitled to do what they're doing.
So only our Atlanta Hawks will actually try our hardest and lose to a team that's trying to tank in Brooklyn.
Yeah, pretty much. But then knowing the Hawks, they'll come out and beat like a Milwaukee or a decent team in the next game there. But yeah, some of the players we're seeing getting rotation minutes in the NBA this season, it's like, I know there's always a big turnover with that 450 players in the league, but there are some players there that even crazy hardcore fans like us that we have to get Google going just to see who the hell these guys are. But yeah, I'd like to see the league change something. I'm not sure what they'll end up doing, but maybe they need to.
I think something like that. The bottom 8 teams get equal probability of winning the lottery, right?
Yeah,
something
possibly.
along those lines.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Robbie. Do you want to take us out with
absolutely.
everything?
Yep. So look, as Woody mentioned, and as we mention every week, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube. Leave us some comments. If you are going into these places or downloading the audio podcast there, leave us a nice positive 5-star comment and keep spreading the words about the show we're doing there. Of course, we can be followed on X at Throwback Hoops, Instagram, and also the email there, throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. There's Patreon as well if you want to pledge a bit of support to help us with all the associated costs with this weekly show. We'd love that as well. And it's probably it from me then.
Thanks, Robbie. Look, we'll have one more show where we cover the end of the NBL season, and then we'll move into just NBA heavy content heading towards the playoffs.
NBA heavy content with some NBL 1 coming in as well. But look, obviously we'll be wrapping up the NBL season regardless what happens, whether it does go to 4 or 5 next week. I'm also going to bring those predictions we made, Wood. So I'll go through those. I'll host next week, and we'll look at some of those, because I haven't really looked at those preseason predictions, how wrong or how right we were on some of them. I don't even remember who I picked to win it now. So maybe that'll be interesting to see how we went there. We'll name and shame like we do every year, right? We won't sort of hide behind those predictions we made.
Yeah, one of our listeners asked, when are you and Robbie going to go through some of those? So it'll be nice next week.
For sure.
All right. Any final thoughts?
No, looking forward to Game 4. We've got a midweek Wednesday night game. I know a lot of these, games have been competing with other stuff. What else is going on a Wednesday night? So, watch this game there, and then buckle up for a big NBA playoffs. It's not far away, and follow this Western Conference that we've spent a lot of time talking about today, because it's going to be a really tight race there.
Really tight race, and it's heating up. So until next week, Robbie and I, the whole team.